So I would like to call this meeting of the board to order. Stephanie, would you do the roll call, please?
Yes, okay. Chair Burns,
Here.
Vice Chair Jones, Pastor. Both Joneses are here. Dr. Ford, Crystal Jackson, Pastor Nathan, Kyle Strickland, and Mary Younger.
Here.
Thank you.
You. All right, next up is the minutes from the previous meeting. Hopefully, everyone has had an opportunity to take a look at those. Does anyone have any edits or notes about omissions? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to accept the minutes as written. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hands. All right, motion's carry. Thank you. Now I'll turn it over to the Inspector General for an update.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, board members. Oh, better? Yeah, okay. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, board members. The update that we're going to have today, we sent out the monthly report for December to everyone. I'm sure everyone has gotten it. I was just going to go over some of the highlights. I didn't get any additional questions, but if you have any questions, please let me know. For the month of December, For the month of December, we had a total of 95 complaints. That's going to be on page 2. Out of those 95 complaints, we opened 23. Thank you. Thank you. Out of those 95 complaints, we opened 23 investigations. 72 were closed at intake. Out of the 23 investigations that were open, we investigated 72 allegations. For the month of December, we closed 24 investigations, and out of those 24 investigations that were closed, we investigated 64 allegations. We broke those down by precinct, talking about the cases and the allegations, and so talking to the precincts that had the highest number, Precinct 10 had the highest number of cases being 3, investigating 13 allegations. Out of those 13 allegations, 1 was sustained, 1 was exonerated, and we had 11 that were unfounded. We had another precinct, which was Precinct 12, that also had 3 cases. We investigated 11 allegations, and out of those 11 allegations, 2 were exonerated and 9 were unfounded. We also had Precinct 19. They had 2 cases, 8 allegations were investigated, and out of that, we had 7 that were exonerated and 1 that was unfounded. When we are doing our investigations, sometimes we're not able to make a determination as to what precinct it occurred. And so also you'll notice that we have NA, and out of that, we had 5 cases that were investigated. We investigated 8 allegations, and out of those 8 allegations, 4 were unfounded, 3 were administratively closed, and 1 was a withdrawal complaint. In the month of December, there were 3 allegations that were sustained misconduct. And also for the month of December, the board reviewed 39 reports. Before I go on, are there any questions? We are working aggressively to complete the annual report. We're hoping to be able to present the annual report in March, but we're still working on trying to get all of our figures and everything together. And we will be forwarding the draft over to Chair Burns for her to be able to review and add any additional information regarding a lot of the recommendations and everything that the board has made to CPD to put all of that information in the report. Looking at the update where we are with the dashboard, again, we're still working with the city's IT department. I feel comfortable that we have some progress. The last time that I had a conversation, we were able to send some information over to them so they see the information and matrix that we're pulling up in the fields that we're looking at. We are still working with Matrix to be able to make some changes to how the data is connected, forming a relationship in Matrix, so we're able to kind of, when we do a report, right now we look at two different sources of information that connects the allegations to the dispositions. So we're really working with Matrix, and we're almost there. We're really kind of hoping that by March, we might have that information where, again, we're able to pull that specific information from one source versus two sources. And that's going to help us as far as when we're trying to do the dashboard, because right now it's important when we're doing the dashboard and we're being able to present all of the information like we're doing in our monthly reports, that all that information can come from one source instead of two, and then just being able to cross-check it for human error so that the information is correct. Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you for the update, Inspector General. I'm glad to hear that there's some progress on kind of the Tableau capability and figuring out what it'll take to pull that together. Next up on our agenda is bylaws, and there have been some suggested updates. I'm going to ask Stephanie if she'll send kind of all the documents where suggestions have been made to the full board. And if everyone could spend the next month between now and our next meeting taking a look at those, and then we can have any questions, edits, or suggestions kind of already in hand in time for our March meeting. All right. Okay, now moving to January signed cases, I will turn it over to Committee 1.
Yes, thank you. I just want to ask the board chair, just real quickly, are we reviewing case 2025-0641, or is that later in the agenda?
Yeah, that listed first.
This was a case that we handed back to the DIG last time, and I just didn't, I'm just trying to find it in terms of where that fits on the agenda.
Sure, you can include it if you all have a resolution or a
Yes,
final
okay,
recommendation
right
for
up
it,
here.
sure.
So let me just handle the Committee 1 cases first,
Okay,
if that's all right, and then we'll go backtrack to 25-0641. Committee 1 met. We unanimously agreed with the DIG's findings in case 25-0822, 0875, 0879, 0882, 0903, 0910, 0964, 0993, and 1039. And so we move to accept the DIG's findings in all of those cases.
Second.
okay. Any questions about any of those cases from the rest of the board? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of moving them forward, please raise your hands. Okay, any abstentions or any opposition? Okay, motion's carry.
We had a question, and the DIG helpfully provided us information in the case of, let me just find that, in the case of 2025-0882, which was an administrative closure. It was then um, we asked a question about forwarding complaints to the prosecutor's office. The question that we asked was, is there a reason that the DIG is not automatically forwarding complaints to the prosecutor's office or other appropriate agencies rather than administratively closing the case? In this particular case, the fact pattern was that the case arose in Clark County, so there was no jurisdiction and it was administratively closed. I didn't have an opportunity to follow up following that response, but I would like to ask the DIG, if this case were not, did not arise in Clark County but arose in Franklin County, would you have forwarded it to the prosecutor's office automatically or not?
I'm not familiar with that, so if you give me a moment to be able to pull up the case that you're referencing.
While she's doing that, may I interject something on that? I watched that meeting last week, and
Last month?
I'm sorry. Can you guys please turn your mics
yeah.
on? I'm sorry.
Thank you. The forwarding of cases to the Inspector General's, to the prosecutor's office by the Inspector General, and Mr. Tobias, maybe you can help out here. When a citizen files a complaint, they know that it's going to the Inspector General's office and then ultimately to the Police Civility Review Board. And the ultimate that can happen is that the officer, the individual at issue, is either disciplined, or the worst that could happen is he loses his position. If it's forwarded by the Inspector General to the prosecutor's office, something totally different occurs from the prosecutor's office. That individual could lose his or her freedom. It's a whole different situation. The complainant then may not have had that in mind for that particular individual. And would it cause a chilling effect for the filing of the complaints? So does the Inspector General, or should they be forwarding things or complaints for prosecution purposes? Is that their job? Because even on the street, when a police officer doesn't view a complaint or doesn't view whatever, an altercation, et cetera, then they advise the individual to go to the prosecutor's office and file themselves. And when I watched that, I was thinking I was going to get in touch with Mr. Tobias, because I'd like to know what you think about this, Mr. Tobias.
As you were speaking, I was looking at the provisions in the charter
Okay.
and the city code in terms of whether there was any specific language in there under like duties and tasks for the IG in terms of, you know, if something's criminal in nature, forwarding it to the prosecutor's office. I'm doing a very cursory review right now. I mean, upon first glance, I'm tending to agree with you that there's nothing articulated in the charter or in the ordinance providing for the IG to do that. And so, but I obviously want to have an opportunity to look at it a little bit more closely just to confirm that. So I tend to agree with you that that's not within the listed job duties and responsibilities.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
It would be helpful to hear, maybe next month, we can hear from you about the responsibilities.
I'm going to still scroll through it, keep one ear this way
Yeah.
and look. So if I can provide more information during the course of this meeting, I'll certainly do that.
And Mr. Tobias, my follow-up question would be, even if it's not in the list of affirmative duties, would it be a violation of their duties to do so? That is, does this provide the absolute upper limit of what the DIG can do? And so if they did something else, they would be outside of the scope of their responsibility? Or
Right.
are they permitted to do it anyway? I'm not sure Board Member Younger, if I would exactly agree with the chilling, that I'm just speaking more personally, it feels more speculative to me that would be a chilling, that is, that a citizen whose rights were allegedly violated would not file with the DIG because they feared that police officer who they're accusing of misconduct or excessive use of force might also face criminal penalties. I'm not sure that would be in the mind of the vast majority of civilians, but could be.
I guess that question, that issue just,
Yeah, that a referral might occur, therefore they wouldn't file.
I guess that issue just brought back my practice with criminal defense, because a lot of victims,
If
when
everyone
time
could
came
lean a little forward into their mics. I
when
think
time
they
came to
can't-
go to court,
I understand.
they, so I just thought about that. I thought,
I
since
completely
it's.
hear you.
Yeah.
And typically those situations are of a more personal nature, aren't they? You know, family member, domestic violence, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'm really concerned that this person would be prosecuted. I don't know that a civilian's relationship with the police, who they already are filing, would be analogous to.
Excessive use of force is very personal. So I think that
You're
Mr.
misunderstanding
Tobias.
my use of personal. I meant that I have a pre-existing personal relationship with this individual. They're a boyfriend, they're a father, they're a husband, they're something else. A pre-existing personal relationship. I'm very concerned about that. Therefore, when push comes to shove, I'm not going to file against them. On the other hand, my relationship with police is more distant. I feel my rights are abused, and as a result of that, I'm already filing with the DIG. I'm just raising that question. I mean, definitely, you can legitimately take the other
Yeah.
side. I'm just
So-
raising that.
I will say from a statutorily, from that perspective, 23505 has kind of a catch-all at the end in A6 to perform such other duties not inconsistent with the provisions
Okay.
of the charter, this chapter, or as may be required by vote of the Civilian Police Review Board or by ordinance of council. So there is some wiggle room in there if that was the direction that the board wanted to go in terms of voting to ask or require the IG to do that. But the secondary concern is the one that may be more problematic in terms of assessing it through the collective bargaining agreement. That would be something where I would want to run that past Wendy Keene and Susan Williams in, city HR and our city attorney's office HR to make sure that the IG doing that would not be violative of the collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah, if that wouldn't be too much trouble, that'd be great to hear.
Yep.
And then the board could make a decision. When there's an administrative closure, I would imagine that a lot of untrained civilians would just feel like, okay, it's over, and I don't really know how to file with the prosecutor's office, and this is going to be a huge lift, and as a result of that, I've lost. I'm done. And, I already dealt with the government. They're not going to do anything with this police officer. Now they're sending me to another office. It was hard enough for me to fill out the form to begin with. Maybe I don't have the kind of legal background or training to deal with all of these laws. It's just a big lift to file to begin with. Now you're sending me to another place. Our thought as a committee was to at least ask the question, wouldn't it just be easier to forward this instead of just closing?
I'll also say, now that as you're speaking, 235.05A1 says to receive all complaints of misconduct and/or excessive use of force by sworn personnel in the Columbus Division of Police filed by citizens, blah, 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 for review in order to determine and forward to the appropriate investigatory entity.
There you go.
So that, to me, would mean if it's criminal in nature, the appropriate investigatory entity would be the prosecutor's office. So
That's what we
that
were
seems a little
wondering.
bit broader.
In this particular case, the DIG did exactly what they should. I mean, we support your action. It didn't take place in Franklin County. Yeah.
But they didn't forward it, no?
So, well, they just said they're not even the appropriate agency to handle this, but the question of forwarding, I was asking a question of, if this happened in Franklin County, would you have done it? And now we're just asking.
I will say the DIG, its internal processes could decide as a matter of
Well,
policy
we
not to.
understand that if this became burdensome, pragmatically burdensome, that goodness, we're now being asked to do this, we would need a conversation about that. We were really trying to ask the
Right.
more abstract question of, is there a reason we just don't routinely pass these on?
I can discuss that internally with them.
You want to speak?
Yeah, Madam Chair, through Madam Chair. So I did have a chance to review the question that was asked by the committee, because I wanted to make sure I reviewed the question that was asked by the committee and also the case. So when we get complaints, first of all, if we get a complaint and it involves where we don't have the jurisdiction, we do provide that information to the complainant.
Right.
We usually will recommend whatever agency that they need to talk to. So early on, we had some cases where we did initially, and I just cannot recall the specific agency, where we were trying to forward it. The reason we're not able to forward those cases is a lot of times they're going to need to contact that person and they follow up. So it's just a lot for us not to be that party involved that has nothing to do with that investigation. It's a lot easier for us and more appropriate to be able to contact the complainant and said, hey, we understand this is what your case, this is what your allegation. Here is the agency that would be best able to handle that. And then we stay out of it. But I believe we did answer that in the question to you to let you know that, our goal is anytime someone calls, we take it serious that they reached out to us, and we don't want to be that agency that just says, hey, we know you filed a complaint, but we're not providing you a solution. So we do provide a solution. A lot of times we're looking up those numbers, and we do reference the person that they need to contact in those cases. So I hope that that does answer your question, especially if it's outside
Unfortunately,
of.
it doesn't.
Okay.
We're kind of going around the block. I'm just asking, and our committee was just asking the real simple, is there a reason maybe you don't have the resource to forward them, you feel that that's, beyond what you're able to do? We're just asking why you don't take it upon yourself to forward it and not leave it to the civilian to file and to track the number down. I understand that you're providing the information. Here's the prosecutor's number. If you want to file, here's what you would do. Go to this office. We're just asking, a much simpler question, why it's not forwarded. So,
Well, again, when you contact, whether it's the prosecutor's office or let's say you want to contact, maybe I'm trying to figure out what's that, civil rights. Oh, civil rights. The process to file that complaint is going to be much like our process. If someone wants to make a complaint for us, they have to either go online, go in person to provide that information. We don't have the ability to just say, okay, here is maybe an email and we're forwarding it on to that. We don't have that ability because a lot of times they have forms just like us. All of that information has to be filled in. So we're not able to do that. So that's why, it's just more appropriate for the person that's making the complaint to go on, contact whatever screen needs to be filled out. Some of your other OIG offices, I know the state OIG office, they have an online site that you have to go on and fill all that information. And that's why, we're not. What I will say is if it's an agency in-house like ECC, those are a little bit more in-house. So what we're able to do is take that complaint, which normally comes involving maybe a 911 operator. We're able to take that and send that email over to ECC and then still recommend that they follow up. But it's totally different.
I
when you're-
understand.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reason this arose is because we knew that complaints were being forwarded by other agencies to the DIG. So we were it made us ask the question, well, if other agencies are forwarding complaints to the DIG, why can't we reverse the flow and occasionally, instead of just administratively closing and saying, hey, here's a phone number, call, can you guys forward to another agency? So that's how that arose in terms of our conversation.
Board Member Nathan, do you recall what agency you were referring to that referred a case to us? I know the IAB frequently, routinely.
Yes.
So we do that. We reciprocate that all the time. If it's something that falls outside of our jurisdiction, like the Inspector General said, and reaches a criminal, could be criminal, we routinely refer those to the Internal Affairs Bureau. So we do have that relationship with them. Yes, sir.
Okay. Great, well, there we go. Anything from the rest of the committee? Okay. We had this case 2025-0641.
Board Member Nathan, do you all want to move forward on 0882?
Yeah, we already voted on that.
Okay, but that's just
We
further
were just asking
conversation.
another
Okay.
question. So we already voted on it, and the board unanimously agreed with the DIG's finding. So we didn't have a problem with what they did in that particular case at all. We were asking a more general question, so. Okay? So then, 2025-0641, we raised the question last month, and this had to do with, just to bring people up to speed, a complainant's daughter was age 12, was communicating via Snapchat with a 17-year-old male who resided out of state, and the pornographic material was sent to this 12-year-old girl, and there was a question about the investigative officer's statements to about this girl. And so the DIG has gone back with respect to this, and maybe the DIG could share with the committee or with the board the current state of things, because we then have a question about whether we want you to pursue that or not.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I did send an email out with a lot of information regarding some of the questions that the board had initially asked that we weren't able to, at that time, provide answers for. What I will share is that we did leave the board meeting, and we did go back and made attempts initially to interview the officer. We still have the ability to interview the officer if the committee wants that, if they feel like the information we provided was not adequate. But what I will say is that when we attempted to interview the officer, we ended up with some pushback from the FOP stating certain policies and procedures they felt we were not in compliance. So we had a meeting with legal counsel. Matter of fact, my legal counsel might be able to share facts with you on that. So it took some time for us to kind of have that discussion, find out, and we ended up meeting with labor to be able to get the information as to what our justification was and our authority to be able to conduct that interview. And in the process, we just said, let's make sure we provide the information to the committee, and maybe since we're able to answer your questions, we will not need to interview the officer. But it wasn't that we came back and were not attempting to
No,
interview him.
I thank you.
So-
Yeah, no, I don't,
But-
didn't sense that you were unwilling, I mean, you went through a whole process here. Mr. Tobias, maybe you can help us with what is the FOP and, issue? What's
Yeah.
going on here?
There was some discrepancy in interpretation, basically. It's in the collective bargaining agreement. I want to say it's 8.14, not 8.12. I feel like I'm getting pretty good up to speed with those provisions, but 8.14 were, I was interpreting it a little differently than what the original understanding was, but after consultation with Wendy Kane and Susan Williams, who basically deal with this day in and day out, and have been in the room with FOP folks for conversations, they kind of explained what the real-world working understanding is of that 8.14 provision in terms of tolling time for investigations. And so the initial concern was that, hey, the 90-day investigative timeframe had lapsed before the IG had asked for an extension of that timeframe to do additional investigation. After the conversations, we said, no, we feel like we have good, solid legal footing to say the IG got this to you within 40 or 45 days, and once you received it, the investigative timeframe would toll, and that there was still some time left for the IG to do follow-up investigation if necessary. I would say the email from Mike Dunleavy was pretty assertive that we were wrong. We feel pretty strongly that he's wrong, but we haven't really adjudicated that issue. We haven't really flushed it out yet. We basically sent a response back saying we reserve the right to disagree, and we also reserve the right to call the officer in because we believe we still have time left on the investigative timeline. That's kind of where we left things. We then kind of moved the discussion to picking and choosing your battles. Number one, whether it's this is the mountain you want to die on kind of thing, whether this is the best example, the best case to really argue this issue on, or whether we want to wait for something with a different set of facts and circumstances. So that was the first thing we kind of talked about, and we're leaning more towards, we probably don't want to fight the battle on this one. But I think more importantly, and again, maybe this is where the legal counsel I provide to the DIG is a little different than what Ms. Ross previously was able to provide because of my prosecutor background in terms of legal investigations and the viability of interviews and and again, Ms. Younger probably will be shaking her head because of our prior criminal law experience. Interviewing just for the sake of interviewing, or whether you think that an interview will really bring about more probative and relevant facts. And if I misstate something, correct me. The set of facts that the board had previously has been added to with additional information about the nature of the investigation, which I think lends itself more to the conclusion that, the officer was not as kind of dismissive and as accusatory as was initially thought. And so I don't know I think that the IG shared that in an email with you about the additional information that may not have been shared when you reviewed the report the first time. And again, I can expound upon that, or the IG can.
I don't recall the email, but I am persuaded personally that it probably won't have much probative value to push this.
We agree.
And so, yeah, I certainly understand that, we can keep pushing and we'll end up in the same place after lots of effort. And so I would concede that. I was really concerned with the allegation and raised the question because I was concerned that my fellow board members seemed comfortable with statements that were, to me, really shocking. So that's why I raised it.
Yeah, the additional information kind of involved the fact that the investigator, the detective, was able to actually identify the individual out of state and had communication, I believe, with, at a minimum, the minor's parents, and also was able to discover through additional investigation that the young girl at issue here had made representations online to this other individual.
Oh,
that
I saw that.
She was older than she really
Okay,
was.
so I did see that.
Yeah,
I
so-
thought maybe there was something else.
Yeah, so, yeah.
But of course, she would be unable to, it doesn't really matter.
I think from a mens rea standpoint, a mental culpability standpoint, the detective felt fairly strongly that this 16-year-old minor out of state was under the impression that he was dealing with another 16-year-old minor.
I'm not in any way asking the question about the mens rea of the alleged perpetrator. I was concerned about statements by the, potential statements by the officer.
I think that maybe the officer could have been a little more eloquent in the way that he was describing his conclusions to the mom, but I think he was trying to explain some of the things that I just said.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah. He said it in a little bit more of an unrefined way.
And so in terms of the follow-up, the back and forth with CPD or FOP, there was no kind of, I mean, other than just basically this is past the time. I mean, I guess I understand picking your battles, but I am a little concerned for this kind of happening in future cases as well, this type of misrepresentation or miscommunication on what counts as tolling and not. And so I guess what is being done now to make sure that these issues are not potentially enlarged in the future? What does that look like right now?
Like I said, we feel like we're on solid legal footing to say the time tolls, the investigative timeline tolls when it goes to the CPRB for review. And if we need to argue that in a future matter, we absolutely feel comfortable doing that. So we didn't feel like any additional conversation. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike Dunleavy is fairly new to that position now, so we don't have a lot of prior experience working with him. I have no prior experience working with him. And then secondarily, even if we're past the 90 days, the advice that we got from Susan and from Wendy was keep investigating, let's keep moving forward, and we can argue the details later.
Okay.
And so that's kind of the guidance I've given to the IG as well. You know, if we can ask for, if we think we're going to go past the 90 days, ask for an extension before it expires and provide a rationale for it. If something happens where there was an oversight and you're past the 90 days, keep investigating and we'll deal with that afterwards.
Okay. Are there folks on the board who have additional thoughts on this in terms of the role that the board can play in further clarifying some of these misunderstandings or areas of disagreement?
I mean, so I was involved in this conversation because I absolutely believed that time tolls because of the training that we had all had earlier. So that's part of how the issue got pushed a little back and forth, and the last response that we gave to them was because of my recollection of that information. So if other folks have thoughts, Mr. Tobias did reach out to other attorneys within the city, specifically those who are more familiar with the FOP contract, which is, I think, where this confidence about our position is coming from.
Yeah, I disagreed with them after they initially explained it and they pushed back on me. And after a while, I said, okay, you're the experts, not me.
And then for clarification, where did this kind of conclude? Where did this end up? Or, I mean, I guess we're kind of in the midst of it, but has there been a decision made in the sense of, I know initially it was basically there was not enough information to even make any sort of determination. So are we now trying to figure that out here, or is your office going to continue investigating this process? If I'm reading this correctly, like ultimately there was not a...
I'm under the impression, based on all the discussions I've had, that the original decision, was it unfounded?
Administrative closure?
No, what was the original decision? Whatever the original decision was, based on the additional information that came in, it would remain unchanged.
Well-
It lent more support to the original closure.
Interesting. Well, would that normally happen though in terms of, because the original decision was administrative closure, so there was additional information that was uncovered here based on the investigation, and so maybe a choice would be unfounded or something else, but it doesn't seem to be that additional information is administrative closure, and if it were, then it seems that there is more information to be found here, or to look for, to make a determination one way or the other on what the final DIG decision is.
I don't know that it is that. So part of because I also talked with the IG and followed up about this case specifically because I had questions. If you all remember, I said, because I assumed it was an adult. Was the adult charged? Like, what's the next step? What's the plan? And that's when at least I discovered that that it was another teenager who was out of state, so that was beyond the jurisdiction for us to have done anything. Also is when we found out the information about the exchange between the two, and that there was this mistaken understanding that they were both same age peers. So I initially had thought this was an adult, which it's a whole other thing. It does not mean that in California or Oregon, whatever state that young person was in, that it could not have been pursued there. But for me, at least, it cleared up some of the questions that I had, and I at least further conversation about, at the end of the day, there was not a statement that the officer made that led to the complainant feeling this way. It was a feeling she had. And that was the reason for when they kept calling her back to get more information, they weren't able to get additional information from her because there weren't statements that were made. It's just how she felt. And so I don't know that there's more to get from additional investigation.
I would agree that there's maybe not more to get, but to Board Member Strickland's point, if the IG believes that administrative closure is not the proper moniker to use, and it should just be like with this additional information, they should just switch it to unsubstantiated or whatever it is, that would be appropriate. That's a decision for the IG to make.
Yeah. Okay. That because I think you did. It seems that the enough information came in. I mean, I would still have questions in terms of, part of the point, in addition to the allegations implying that the sergeant was sexist, there was an allegation that they were not taking the investigation seriously. And so I don't know whether CPD has additional documentation on, these conversations that she stated that she had. And so basically, you've got the chronology report and a couple other things, and then the interview with the complainant. And I understand not wanting to bring the officer in, or the officer not necessarily wanting to bring in to have further conversations here, but to me, this seems like a matter of communication of them saying, yeah, this was handled this way, and we took it seriously. I'm kind of confused by the level of back and forth that CPD has gone related to those email exchanges related specifically to this case.
We feel like that issue's been resolved
Okay.
at this point for us. The bottom line is, the board asked for more information. We had internal discussions, and ultimately, additional information was provided back to the board saying, here's some other things you should consider. Do you still want us to potentially call the officer back in? And so at this point, the IG is waiting for a decision from the board to say, yes, we want you to do that, or no, we appreciate this additional information. We're good with you closing this in a way that you think is appropriate. That's kind of where we're at.
Okay.
And I'm going to be completely upfront here. If ultimately the board says, no, we want you to continue to investigate and maybe call the officer in, then we're going to have an attorney-client conversation about whether or not they need to do that or not.
Yeah. And so just for clarification, so the additional information, because right now we talk about the documents or the chronology report, and then the sex crime report here, and then the interview with the complainant. Was there, I just want to be clear or get some clarification, was there additional information outside of that you then got, and where did you obtain some of that additional information, if not through the officer interview?
Okay, excuse me, Madam Chair. So there was no additional information. We still had all the information that we provided in the email was questions that were asked that at the time, because those questions that came to us, again, we always ask that the questions come ahead of time, and then the ability for the board members to come in and have a conversation. So nothing is new. What we were able to do is go back and look at the questions that the board asked and be able to answer those questions. Now, part of what the board had asked was that we interview the person, because at the last board meeting, the questions that were asked, we did not have those answers at that time. So again, there's nothing new. The information that we provided was going back, pulling the information and researching it from the reports, and providing the explanation that the board needed to understand as to why the officer was not interviewed. We would still close this as an administrative closure, and the reason being is because when you look at administrative closure definition, insufficient information, it says, one of the reasons is insufficient information to investigate the complaint. We still would have liked to have talked to the complainant to get some specific facts about what they were saying other than a feeling. The reason we would have closed it unfounded is if we had enough information to be able to say, yes, unfounded is the investigation found no evidence to substantiate that the allegation.
That's helpful. To that point, were you all able to follow up with the complainant after? Has there been follow-up with that complainant?
Yes. Yes, we have contacted the complainant. I'm the supervisor who handled the investigation. My investigator handled the investigation. And just to speak on that, we have contacted her and let her know that we did close it administratively, and she had no issue with it.
So was there a follow-up saying, what you've provided to us, it's not clear?
Well, I spoke to her as well as the investigator did, and each time we spoke to her, we asked her, in a sense, what was it that what did the officer say or do that made you feel that he wasn't taking it seriously, and she could not answer? And what was sexist? What did the officer do that was sexist that made it seem that he was being sexist? And she could not answer us each time we spoke to her.
And by just could not answer, okay, I'm not going to go to the specifics back. I guess where I'm.
So, like, for instance,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off, board member. So when we ask, like, if someone is being rude, how were they rude? And they will say, well, he told me this or he said this. When we asked her how was the officer sexist, she could not answer. She said she just had a feeling that he was sexist. When we asked her how was the detective not taking the investigation seriously, she said, I just have a feeling he's not taking it
Got it.
seriously. We can't investigate a feeling.
Got it. Okay, and then the follow-up was, hey, there's not enough information for this, and so this is going to be administrative closure, and that was communicated to the complainant.
Yes.
Okay, great. That's helpful, because one of the things that I think that I've been trying to get an understanding of is in terms of that back-end follow-up. What is the follow-up once a determination is made, what that potential follow-up is to the complainant? And so that was asking and answered, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
So I'll pose the question to Committee 1. Is there any further work that you would like the IG's office to do on this case, or is the committee ready to propose forward movement?
I mean, isn't this going to get forwarded? I mean, what happens when this gets forwarded on to CPD?
Well, it's administratively closed.
Is it administratively closed, or given the information that wasn't initially included in the report, is it now?
Unfounded.
Wasn't working.
I think her mic is broken, Stephanie. It's not red or green.
It's
It's just off. Maybe no battery.
Uses.
thank you, Stephanie. Well, I'm wondering if we want this to stay an administrative closure, given the information that we have. And then the other question that I have for the IG or the supervisor or Deputy Director Blunt, when this was initially written, it did not include the age of the male. And I'm wondering why that wasn't included, because I think that could have helped clarify a lot of this conversation that we had. But it also makes me pause just a level of concern in terms of other reports that we have reviewed and what pertinent information has also been left out. I know that's just a hypothetical, but also I'm just a little concerned. So I just think that should have been included, and perhaps that could have helped quell some of this conversation that we've had.
I want to interject something. I've been reading a lot of cases over the past.
Your mic, sorry.
Thank you.
I've been reading a lot of cases over the past 5 years, and whenever I have an issue, whenever our committee has an issue, that I can't get from a case that I'm reading, then I go and view the body cam. But if I feel that something personally has been left out by the IG's office, I either email them or I go view the video, or I don't vote. I mean, our committee discusses it, and if I don't feel that something is complete, I am not going to go forward with the case. I have full trust that the Inspector General and her people are doing their job and that I'm doing my job. So I would not.
Sir, what are you
Well,
trying
what
to
are
imply?
we-
What I'm
are you
trying to
em-
say here
yeah.
is that you indicated that what else have they left out, if they've left out the age of this male individual? Well, they may have left out the age of this male individual in this particular case, but I'm not certain that they've left out that this casts a shadow on all their other work that they have done.
I wouldn't say she's
I wouldn't
implying
say
that.
that. I didn't say that. So
Okay. All right. I may
yeah. You don't have to
misinterpreted
put
you.
words in my mouth. I said what I said, and that's
Okay.
not what I said. What I did say was just I posed a question in terms of that was pertinent information to this case, and I thought that it would have helped provide some understanding and some clarification so that we wouldn't have this much discussion on it.
Yes, ma'am. And you also have the opportunity to email
We
this
did.
office.
We did.
And ask that question, get that age.
We emailed questions to
Okay.
them, and those
You know,
questions
every
were-
time, this would be the sort of thing, though, that it just, to respond, that we would not have even conceived of. You know, there are some things that when, we usually ask clarifying questions. We always, virtually every time we get done with a subcommittee meeting, we email you. You hear from us pretty regularly, subcommittee one. So we're doing what you're suggesting. We would not have thought to ask, maybe you would have, or somebody else would have, oh, by the way, you know, when we heard that it was a male sending pornographic material to a 12-year-old, it didn't occur to us to ask the question, oh, by the way, was he 16? You know, that wasn't something that was.
I can see that, and that's why we all work together.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't think that this one issue casts a shadow on any of the work that this office has done.
Look, I will slightly make a statement here. I think, one, that is not what I heard Dr. Jones saying. And I don't think she's trying to cast a
misheard.
shadow on the entire investigation.
I could have misheard.
I do think this points to the larger challenge, right? Because you have to provide an analysis and the findings and a summary that is not every single detail through this case, so that we can review things in a manner that makes sense, that has the relevant points and top lines. And we know that there's variance across the Department of Inspector General in terms of investigation and the process. I think generally it's worked very well. I do think what we've pointed to, and what I know is not entirely just in DIG's control, which is, I'm going to keep saying it, this dashboard. I don't know who needs to invest in it, city council, the mayor's office, whoever, but basically there shouldn't be any reason that we not just have an email attachment of the Department of Inspector General summary reports, but also can access a database to then be able to
Board Member Strickland,
look deeper into
we
these
did
files.
get an update on the.
I love it.
On the
Perfect.
dashboard before you came in.
Perfect. What's the update?
I'm going to invite you to go back and listen to the
top
meeting.
lines? Is it happening?
I do
Is
want
it
to
here?
say, I do want to say this though about this question. So I do think that over the course of time, I have seen the IG's office respond when we've said, you know, here's some information we would have liked to have seen. So we have seen a evolution of reporting over the last couple of years. And I know that even CPD has made suggestions, and we've seen changes come from that. I think what this, to me at least, highlights, like I said, had I known that was a teenager, I would not have had the same level of questions or even the same level of I'm looking for the right adjective, but I would not have been bothered in the same way, I think, as I was imagining like a 30-year-old sending photos to a 12-year-old. Knowing that how the teenage brain works, I know that there are differences. I think this is information that may have staved off some of the amount of discussion we've had about this case. And that's not to say that it means, you know, we think the whole wheel needs to be invented or that every report needs to be 30 pages, because I don't think it does. I just do think that this highlights, here's a piece of information that may have foreclosed some of the conversation we've had, or at least some of the outrage about the facts of this particular incident. The dashboard is in the works and figuring out capabilities, so we are moving forward on that, but I do not want to rehash a dashboard discussion when we had an
I'm not
update.
talking about public dash. I'm not just talking about public dashboard. There,
Absolutely.
I think there is a matrix system that the DIG's office utilizes that I think board members should figure out ways to get access to, right? I mean, I think there's ways to do that beyond email attachments or having to go in to the office to review body camera footage. So that's kind of the statement of what I'm trying to get to in addition to this dashboard.
Well, and I don't know that there is actually remote body cam viewability for us.
Certainly
If
not,
I'm-
but
So, and I'm just saying, like, there are certain systems, our office operates within them as well, where certain law enforcement-esque tools are only accessible in certain places, which I understand, like,
certainly.
and especially with the incident we had where all our city emails were imploded and there were data breaches and all of that. So that I get. So I think we are working on a part of accessibility, but I do think that there are certain things, matrix access being one of them, that at this point have to be done in the IG's office, which means we'd have to go and access it there. I would like to be able to, now I again, do not know where we are with
Chair Burns, if I
0641.
may, just respond real
Sure.
briefly, Chair Burns and Vice Chair Jones, in response to your comment. And if I may brag on our staff a bit, right? Our investigations are very thorough, very factual, but they're very relevant to the allegations, right? Including the age of this, I hear what you're saying, but including the age of the alleged perpetrator was not relevant to the allegation, right? So we're factual. The allegation was that the officer was not taking the investigation seriously, and that the officer was sexist, and that he implied that it was the daughter's fault. So that's one of the reasons we did not include that in the investigation. Another reason we may not include information is if there is an open investigation or something more going on with another agency where we don't want to reveal too much, right? So we're not trying to withhold information from you all. If we do not include information, there's a reason for it. And there was a reason for it in this one as well. So I just wanted to make sure that you had full confidence in us that, I hear what you're saying. If you all had known the age of this teenager, then it may not be here right now. As far as other investigations.
That would not have.
It wouldn't have
that would-
impacted
that-
me. That
It wouldn't
might
have
be-
impacted me, that's
But-
Chair Burns' view, but our concerns were other.
I appreciate I appreciate that point. That wouldn't have impacted me. I think specifically there is just a question of, look, I mean, you have a complainant here who has had multiple phone calls with CPD the investigator, and so I just don't know why it went to the point where they're like, it's past the time to investigate. The officer's not coming in for interview versus like, hey, this is just what we got. They're saying you're not taking this seriously. Even an email statement saying we take all of our investigations seriously would be helpful. I mean, I don't know. You'd think in terms of a policy practice perspective, that would be the response if there's an allegation made that they're not taking investigation seriously. And that's not on, I wouldn't say that's on your office. I'm just trying to understand that the level of communication and dialogue that happens between agencies when an allegation like this is made. But I appreciate your point in terms of the relevance facts that are lifted up versus that relate specifically to the complaints that were made.
That's what we look
Maybe
at.
we can move on. Chair Burns, you asked a question. In terms of Subcommittee 1, I think we're satisfied.
Okay, so are you moving to forward on the recommendation as an administrative closure? for that case?
I mean, I guess with I don't know. I think there should, a standard practice of, if somebody made an allegation that your investigator is not taking these investigations seriously, fine to just be like, no, we take all of our investigations seriously. So just a note to send it over to CPD as maybe unfounded if that's the determination that was ultimately made, or if it's administrative closure. If it's administrative closure, it doesn't go to CPD, or does it?
Yeah.
It does not. I think it warrants going to CPD.
So do I have a motion to make a different finding than what is already written in case number 250641?
Well, we can't make it.
Board changing that to unfounded, which the board can do.
What do you
How
guys
do you
think?
want to do it? I don't really care. I'm,
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
So,
Unfounded? Make a motion
yeah.
to change that to unfounded?
I'll second.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second to change the finding and recommendation in case number 25-0641 to unfounded. All in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposed? And abstentions? Okay, thank you. And I believe that disposes of all Committee 1's cases. Is that accurate? All
Yes.
right,
Yes.
turning to Committee 2.
Committee number 2 met on January 26th. We reviewed 7 cases. Those case numbers, we did concur with the Inspector General on all 7 of these cases. We did view body cam on one of the case numbers. Case numbers are 25-0782, 25-0835, 25-0869, 25-0924, 25-0963, 25-0984, and 25-1072. So we did concur on all of these. We viewed body cam on 25-0835, and the reason for that was this was an excessive use of force, and we were concerned on the level 1 where the individual in a nursing home was placed on the ground from a wheelchair, and it was a little unclear from the report as to how it was done, but after viewing it and discussing it with the investigator, it became clear that the officer's use of level 1 was warranted, it was fine, and so we did concur with the Inspector General. At this time, we move that these be accepted.
May I have a second, please? Thank you. First, any questions?
I guess, how did you all make the determination that this use of force was warranted, or in your words, fine?
My discussion with the investigator, after viewing it with it was hard to, because the individual, first of all, the individual was in a wheelchair. And so, but after I went there, then the investigator explained that he was only placed in the wheelchair so he could be transported to another location, away from the individual. There was a call from the nursing home. This was a nursing home. And there was a call from the nursing home to the police department, and 2 officers came. One stayed with the individual in the room who had been assaulted. This particular individual that the call was about had sexually assaulted this individual twice. And so he was placed in the wheelchair to be wheeled out of the way. And so he, let's see here, officers separated them, and the nurse put the offender in a wheelchair to separate them, and then the officer indicated that he wanted the individual to get up to talk to him, and the individual did not want to come to speak with the officer, and he started to walk away, and the officer wanted him to come towards him.
He started to walk away, or he started
No,
to...
excuse me,
Okay,
started to,
well, okay,
not
yeah.
walk away, excuse me, push
Yeah.
himself away. And And so the individual, the investigator was a retired police officer with the Inspector General's office. So he explained that what you want to do is to keep the individual from hurting himself or from hurting someone else. So what he put him to the ground rather than allowing him to run or hurt himself in any other way. So he kind of folded him, and that's why I needed to see the body cam, because you can't really explain it on this piece of paper. The way the officer took his arm and just kind of moved him to the ground, and so he could safely put him in handcuffs. So that was the level of force used. Because my concern was, could he have de-escalated it some other way other than putting this individual to the ground?
Yeah, it's I think, a reasonable question.
Yeah, and after seeing and having the explanation, I saw that this was really for the safety of the individual, the other individuals, and the officer.
In terms of there being use of force used versus other tactics here?
Yeah. I don't know what other tactics he could have used other than.
Was he, I'm just trying to get clarification, was he, the officer, concerned about the individual willing away from?
He could have been. I mean, it's hard to say because I'm not in his mind, but.
And the
but
complaint was about the use of force?
Yeah.
Okay.
The complaint, let's see here. He slammed him, the complainant alleged that the officer slammed a patient on his face. He did not slam him on his face.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the committee? You have a question? Okay. All right, I'm going to call the vote then. All in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's carry. And that disposes of all of your cases, Committee 2?
It does.
Okay, thank you. Committee 3?
Committee 3 met, and Pastor Jones and I agreed on the findings of the DIG for the following case numbers: 250487, 250616, 250811, 250832, 250876, 250944, and 251028.
Okay, and would you like to make a motion to accept those as given?
Yes, motion.
Okay, may I have a second, please? Any questions? Okay, all in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposition? Any abstentions? And does that conclude with all your cases?
It does.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to other business. We, as a board, did receive a complaint concerning a board member pursuant to our board discipline process. I would entertain a motion to go into executive session for a review of that complaint.
So move.
Okay, may I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hands. Oh, by roll call vote? Okay. Well, we have to do it by roll call. Stephanie, can you call a roll for aye votes from each person?
Chair Burns,
Aye.
Dr. Jones,
Yes.
Pastor Jones, Dr. Ford, Crystal Jackson,
Yes.
Pastor Nathan,
Yes.
Kyle Strickland,
Yes.
Mary Younger.
Yes.
Roll call done.
Okay, thank you. And Stephanie, were we able to secure a room, or will the board be here?
No, ma'am, I've asked CTV to shut everything down and everyone else has to leave the room.
Yes, if everyone but Attorney Harrell could please excuse us.
So just a point of order, I've talked with Sarah about this. I know when we had our initial discussion, there was some talk about me not participating or being present because of the legal counsel status of my relationship with the IG. Sarah and I have had some additional conversation. The board can invite whoever it wants into executive session, anybody in the audience, anybody else. So if the board feels that it would be helpful to have me present in the executive session, I'm happy to do that, but that's completely up to the board.
I think because of who filed the complaint, we will ask Attorney Harrell to stay, but we will kindly ask Attorney Tobias to leave the room. Thank you. All right, we are back on the mic. I will ask for a board member to move that we return to regular session.
So moved.
Okay, may I have a second? Second. All in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. Following executive session and review, the board has determined that there is no alleged inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance on the part of the board member against whom the complaint was made. As such, no further action will be taken in this matter. All right, moving on next to policy review procedures. Does anyone have anything that they would like to discuss?
I would like to have a very brief conversation about the way that complaints would be handled against individual board members.
Okay,
And specifically, I would like to recommend that, that we amend our policy from the past of handling complaints regarding the board to allow for the board chair and the vice chair to determine whether they want to bring the complaint to the entire board or determine in their discretion whether this establishes a basis, whether there's probable cause to bring it to the rest of the board, or to dismiss it so that they function as a sort of clearinghouse before we have to go into executive session.
is there any discussion or questions from other board members?
We probably need a copy, like,
Yeah, I know I'm not counsel for the board, but I feel like I should chime in. I think before the board considers amending that, there should be, and I can work with Sarah on this, a double check with provisions in the bylaws to make sure that there's no conflict between what's in the bylaws related to discipline. Also, double check rules and regs, just to make sure, like, so I would respectfully ask that maybe you make the motion or that it gets tabled so that we can just make sure that there's no conflict with bylaws, ordinance, charter, rules and regs.
I could make a motion that says that pending a thorough review by Mr. Tobias and Ms. Harrell regarding the bylaws, charter, and other provisions, that we amend our disciplinary process to allow for the board chair and vice chair to review any complaint against individual board members to be able to determine whether to pass those complaints on to the entire board or to dismiss them in their discretion.
I have an issue with that. I'd like the full board, after the research is done, I'd like for the full board to discuss it first, because I'm not certain that I think that review of complaints should be left to 2 members of the board, of the full 11-member board. I don't think that 2 individuals of the board should determine whether that complaint should go forward or be dismissed. I think the full board should.
I'll say, I think part of the current policy, actually, it actually does provide some discretion, but I do think what Board Member Nathan is outlining is a little bit more explicit in making that determination. But in terms of the policy that you did vote, I believe you voted on, but that our board has been operating by, I believe, provides some discretion.
Sure, it provides discretion. However, I am saying that we all talk about it and maybe in our discretion, allow the full board to vote on the policy, on whether this complaint,
I was assuming that we were all going to vote on this amendment.
no, what I'm talking about is okay.
Maybe we can bring it to
Maybe I
further-
didn't understand what you
What I
you
was
said.
saying was that we're doing this review, then I assume that Mr. Tobias would come back, communicate that.
Gotcha. Okay,
And I'm
okay.
just making a motion right now. I'm not
Okay,
asking
all
for a
right,
vote
I
right now.
misunderstood. I
And I
misunderstood.
assume that we would then discuss it
Okay.
and vote as a board about whether to adopt my motion or not.
Gotcha,
And you're
okay.
free to
Thank you,
vote
thank you,
it down.
Yeah.
thank you.
I'm going to ask, because Stephanie will be sending out, because at the beginning of the meeting, I asked everyone to be aware that we were going to be looking at bylaws and everything anyway. Stephanie, if you could just send every board document to all the board members, every policy we have drafted, all the things that we have already enacted, and I would ask every board member to actually read them, so that any thoughts on proposed amendments, discussions, edits can be had with full knowledge of what resides in each of them. Thank you, Stephanie.
I would suggest if you have specific language you would like to add to the discipline, if you have specific language you'd like to add to that policy, you can please provide that for us.
Okay, any other policy topics that people want to present?
Just briefly, and this might have been discussed in the 10 minutes that I was not at the beginning, but just briefly want to make note for the future meeting around the bylaws or policy is around this vacancy issue and around the term limits challenge that we have with these upcoming term limits that are coming up, and these additional vacancies that are going to be happening or potentially happening. I think there's an opportunity for us to clean up either the bylaws or the policies. I don't know what steps need to be made there to address potential gaps that is happening with this board.
Chair Burns? Am I able to give an update on your applicants?
Yes, please.
Yes, we have 3 applicants that are about to be legislated in February. So they should be, it shouldn't really take anyone longer than a week to go through your training outside of trying to get your ride-along scheduled. So if all goes well, they should be able to be sworn in before the March meeting. If not, April will be the latest. And after that, we have another one pending. So all of the seats will start, we shouldn't have any issues with those that are members that are leaving.
That's helpful. And then I think, and that's super helpful. And I do think nonetheless, there might be some opportunities for cleaning up, and I'm happy to provide some language in terms of the appointment process, because it's great to see that this is happening and this is moving with this speed now, but I know there have been a period of time where we've had 3+ vacancies for a while.
Is it possible if you reply in the email? Because I was trying to tell you guys, send an email to the board. The only response I got was from Crystal Jackson. Thank you, by the way. That was very detailed and helpful. Any suggestions that we have for what the board might need help with, or things that you guys have seen that need to be corrected? That's what we're trying to do with by updating all the documents. So if you could please put that in the email. I sent it to everybody
Yes, I recall.
last week. So
Yes,
yeah,
thanks.
it'll be helpful with
Thank
trying
you.
to document it.
And maybe I misunderstood. My understanding of that communication was related to, or there any sort of onboarding materials that would be helpful in terms of facilitating the process of new members. And I think Jackson's, I think there's a great amount of information that was shared there, and certainly you can think about what that might be. Mine is actually a slightly separate matter, which is more of a city council consideration and a mayor's office consideration in terms of how vacancies and applications are handled, and how we want to fill board spots. So that's kind of what I'm thinking is the role that we could play there.
All that can be
Okay.
incorporated. I'm trying to do an SOP for you guys, where everything's just in one.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Will do. That's all.
Okay, anything else for consideration?
Chair Burns, could I ask for, and just for the sake of timeliness, I'll table this until the next meeting. Could I ask for 5 minutes in this regard for policy in the next meeting? In regard to a case that we adjudicated, I believe, in late 2023, case 2023-1164, which we'd sent on to the chain of command for discipline. And it's, as you probably all well know, has become a topic of a federal civil rights lawsuit. I'd like to discuss that. I'll get some information out to the board. We can review ahead of time, and I can discuss maybe at the next meeting.
Sure. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Clark.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? All right, please keep your eyes on the February case assignments, the March meeting. If there is nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Second, all in favor, please raise your hands.
Aye.
Motion adjourned, thank you.
Thank you.